Hello and welcome to our session, Become a Microsoft Teams Classroom and Conference Pro. My name is Emma Metos. I'm an education scale customer success manager based out of Denver, Colorado, and I'm presenting today with my colleague Margie.
Hi everyone, I'm Margie. I'm also an education customer success manager with Microsoft. I'm based out of Bellevue, and I'm excited today to show you the power of Microsoft Teams in your classroom.
So our learning objectives for the day are threefold. We want you to know how to set up teams and chats, make and grade assignments, and then you're going to master meetings.
Awesome. Well, with that though, we also want to answer your questions. So please use the chat function. Emma and I are here to answer your questions in the chat. So as we're going through our demos, please ask the questions and we'll be there to answer them. Now with that though, I don't want this to be a PowerPoint presentation for you. I want this to be a live demo. So I'm going to take over sharing and show you my Microsoft Teams demo experience here. I happen to be in the online version today, but the things I'm going to show you do not matter if you're in the online version or the desktop client or even sometimes the mobile client in that sense. These are universal features about Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is your hub for collaboration and education coming together, bringing all the tools you love into one space so you don't have to keep switching tools. So in this instance, the demo experience here, we see that this teacher is part of a variety of different accounts or different in classes, so to speak. So these classes could be everything from an elementary example to a post-secondary example, in the case of like the design research group, or even a high school, middle school example, maybe something like algebra. So there might be a variety of examples here, but the core takeaway is you're typically going to be a part of several teams, and so will your students. And we want to make sure things are organized for the students so it's easy for them to access their materials. Now let's play a role of a language arts teacher in like a high school today. So we see we have a language arts team and a language arts period 2 team. Typically, if you teach in like a middle or high school, you teach the same subject across multiple sessions or multiple periods. So you would have a team for each of those classes. It's a place where each class collaborates and works together. So let's start from the beginning. Let's say we need language arts period 3. So I'm going to come into the option to join, or in this case, create a team. And we'll use the wizard for setting up a team. It's going to make it super easy for us. We'll be able to do that pretty quickly. So we'll come in, we'll choose class team. We'll give that team a name. Type and talk at the same time, not my gift. There you go. Language arts period 3. We can add a description if we want. In this case, we'll continue forward. And then we'll be adding our students. So it's simple as typing in the names of those students and then adding them right into the list. So we have a few students here today that we can add in. So go ahead and just add those students right in by typing in their names. We won't add too many students because I get it, you don't want to sit here all day watching me type. And I'll just add a few more students for, excuse me, the sake of example here. And again, I'm just typing in the names of the students and they're populating into my list. Nothing fancy happening here, I promise. All right, so once your students are added, we can go ahead and close, or I can add any additional teachers if I have any other adults who are also involved with my class as well. You can always edit this in the future as well if you have new students added or removed from your class. But for now, we're getting kicked off. So this is a brand new class, a brand new team. And I want to make sure that my 3rd period language arts class feels welcomed and that they understand that there's maybe beginning of class expectations. So I want to share with them an announcement. So one of the core things about each Microsoft team is your ability to create posts. So the first tab you have in your channel, in this case we're in the general channel, is for post. So at the bottom we can create a new conversation. Nothing wrong with clicking on new conversation, typing in a message, and hitting enter to send it. But it's not going to really capture anyone's attention in a big way. And we want to make sure that this first post really grabs my students' attention. So I'm going to use the format option right at the bottom. And from here, I'm going to toggle from new conversation to announcement, which will give me some additional functions in this announcement that I'm creating. By default, it's a headline that's blue, and you can change that color. Maybe you use different colors for different subjects or different functions within your class. So if you want to color coordinate, you can also choose an image, and it can be an illustration from the library or upload your own banner style image. In this case for today, let's go ahead and choose an illustration from the library. And you will see that there are a bunch of really fun, already formatted for Teams announcement, different banners, and you can pick the announcement banner that works best for you. Today, since this is our first announcement, I'm going to go back and choose the megaphone one. So when I select that now, it's going to make sure my announcement headline is really going to pop. So I will say, welcome to, we'll abbreviate for sake of time, language arts, period 3. I can add a subheading, so review our class resources, and I can add in then a list of those things. So I will use some formatting like a bulleted list or maybe a number list. And again, for the sake of example today, I'm just going to be a little bit more generic, but typically, right, you're going to be more responsive and more detailed in what you're actually writing here. So you're going to say things like, you know, review the syllabus, review our grading rubrics, or whatever else you're going to be adding into this team. And again, for example, I'm just going to be more generic. Turn off the bullets at this point because after I'm listing out the things I want my students to be familiar with for this class, I might want to keep adding some direction. So I will say, you know, after you have reviewed these contents, please like this message. And then what will happen is I'm going to get some responses, so I'll know which students have fully read this message or not. Typing and talking, again, not my gift. But I also want to make sure my students don't miss this message because, as I mentioned before, there are multiple classes that my students may be part of, so I don't want them to miss this message in this class. So I'm going to use a function called @mention so they don't miss it. And to do that, I'm going to type in the @ symbol and type in the name of this team. So in this case, language arts, period 3. And it already came up, so I'll go ahead and select that. So now I have a couple parts here. My class is going to be fully notified with that activity alert and their team. And they also have a kind of call to action direction once they're done with this, so I'll know that they paid attention to it. Plus, it looks super great, so it's going to pop when they see it in their posts. So we'll go ahead and send that in, and there we go, looking good. So now when my students see this message, what I'm looking for is that reaction, and you can react to a message. There we go, they're already coming in by hovering over a post and reacting yourself. So we can see that in this case, Emma has reacted. So I know Emma has seen it. Hopefully she didn't react too quickly and she's actually gone through those elements and absorbed them in the way that I intended her. But at least now I can see who in my class has seen these announcements and which ones haven't. So further from here, there's so much more you can do within your posts as well by attaching files and adding fun stickers and GIFs to also capture attention as well. But for now, let's move into some other great features you have within your class team as well. So within every class team, when you build a class, you have some tabs in your general channel. There's files where all your class resources will be saved. We'll come back to that one in just a moment. You have class notebook. So this is a OneNote class notebook. Super amazing tool for a digital notebook for your students and a way for you to also have collaboration amongst your students. Something really great to check out if you haven't started using Class Notebook already. But the great part here about Microsoft Teams is I can bring my assignments right into my team, or in this case, this class. So when we go into assignments here, since this is a brand new class, we don't have any assignments scheduled yet. So let's go ahead and build one out. So we can see it's blank, so we'll choose the create option at the bottom here. And we can make assignments based off of a couple different categories. An assignment like an essay, or an assignment that might be like lab observations would be something that would be like written and submitted. And then a quiz, which would be based off of a Microsoft form where you build out things like multiple choice questions. This is great for formative type assessments or like an entry type assignment for a class, all sorts of different things. But for today's example, we're going to choose assignment, and we'll go ahead and get that created. Now, the only thing that's required is the title of the assignment. The rest you can pick and choose to have as much or as little of your assignment as you want. So first off, we're going to give that assignment a title. I don't know about you, but I always felt like the first assignment I always did with my students was tell me about you in some way, right? So if this is a language arts class, maybe it's an about me essay. So I'll say about me. Sorry, typing and talking is still not my gift. There we go. So the about me essay, and then here we'll put in the instructions. So we can say submit a 1-page Word document about yourself. And for the sake of time, I'm going to end there, but hopefully when you're building out your assignments, you give your students full directions on what you expect. So I would give expectations if there's particular questions I want them to answer for me in their assignment or in their essay, if there's particular guidelines or formatting. I'm going to give those full directions here. So I make sure that I get the results that I'm expecting. But again, we're just going to keep it short and sweet, for example. I could also add any resources. If there are any special parts that I want to have my students review, maybe I want to show them an example essay, maybe there's a template that I want them to use, I can add those resources as well. In this case, I'm going to have my students just submit a Word document, so I'm not going to provide them any resources. You can also give this assignment points or choose to use a rubric, kind of both or one or the other. It's up to you. In this case, we'll do a 20-point base for this essay, but I could also add a rubric. The nice thing is you can start to build a library of rubrics inside of your teams. In this case, since we haven't built any rubrics before, we'd have to start adding them. But it's also nice that now your students can reference that rubric as they're writing their assignments, so they have a better idea about which parts of their assignment need to be completed to get that full grade, so to speak, right? Just like a rubric would let any student know about the assignment. Now we can choose if we want to assign this assignment across classes, so we can pick other classes. We can also choose if we have like a differentiated experience, which students would get this assignment. But for today's example, we'll keep it short and sweet. All language arts period 3 and all students will get this assignment. We can also choose when the assignment's due. Probably not going to be due on a Saturday, so let's just adjust that date and time. We'll do 3:00 p.m. Next Friday is when this is due. And if you are like most teachers and you have like a planning time and you maybe pre-set up assignments, but you're not ready for them to be distributed yet, you can actually edit when the assignment will get posted and change things for like late turn in and so forth, just depending on what you want to customize there. But in this case, we'll leave it as is, and we'll go ahead and assign this assignment out. So there we go. The assignment has been distributed, and we'll actually get here an alert in just a second. There we go, that now the assignment is also posted in our general channel, so the students get a awareness that they have a new assignment here, and they'll also be able to see their assignments in their assignments tab in the class as well. Now, I, as the teacher, can see how many have been turned in. At this point, not any, which I wouldn't expect to be right immediately. I can also see this from the grades tab as well. So when assignments come in, I can see them here. When I want to review an assignment, I can click on that assignment, review it, give it a score and any feedback, return it back to the student. And then if I allowed it to be returned in, maybe the student got low points and I can say, you know, I'd like you to try again or fix these parts to get higher points, I can accept maybe a return in if it's still within that window for when the assignment can be turned in. All things you can control and set up based off of how you want to do it. But then you as a teacher have a view where you can see all the students. Each student can only see his or her own assignments. They can't see everyone else's. But since we're playing the role of a teacher here, we can see everyone all at once. So now that we've seen that experience of being able to distribute and grade an assignment, let's move to another great part of Teams, which is the files. As I mentioned earlier, we were going to come back to that. And the nice part about files is it's a place where you can actually create a library of resources. So by default, you'll have a locked folder called class materials. This is for things like your syllabus or other classroom expectations where you don't want the students to edit or modify those files because they are your direction. So you would add those resources into class materials and only you as the teacher can edit. But let's say I want to do something collaborative. So one of the things as a language arts teacher is I want my students to think of great new words they can use in their writing. So for example, using the word said, I know a lot of teachers say said is dead, right? So when they write, I want them to try to use other words besides the word said. So into our files, I'm going to actually just add a new Word document. In this case, we'll say, we'll call it said is dead. I like that. Said is dead, right? So we're going to have this be a space where when my students come up with a word or find a word rather that replaced the word said in their writing, I want them to contribute into this document. So to set it up, I'll just add a little heading. So what other words can you use than said? So like this in your writing. And there we go. We actually see Emma's already in the document. So here she is, and we can see her little flag. And so she's going to be able to type in words that could be replaced in her writing for said, right? So if I have students who are writing an essay or a narrative type document and they need to replace said, we kind of have this now collaboration document where they can come in and see suggestions for other words like gasped and stated and argued, right, and questioned. We can keep this list growing, but I can let Emma stay here or any other students and they can keep adding. I can close out. And now it becomes a resource as part of our library. Now, this is also true if you are in any professional learning communities and you want to be able to collaborate on documents with other educators as well. So let's make sure we get to the key part of Microsoft Teams, which is really about your virtual class meetings. And so if you want to join a class meeting, one of the ways to do that is from your calendar. So on your left rail, when you click on calendar, you will see your classes. And if you want to join one, you can just hover over the join button if it's actually the meeting time. If it's not time for the meeting or like it's a little bit in advance, if you click on the meeting once on your calendar, you can join that way. You can also double click on a meeting that's on your calendar and see more details. But with that, let's actually pass the baton to Emma so she can show you how to schedule a meeting and some of the other great features that are built into Microsoft Teams meetings that you will want to incorporate into your class as well. So Emma, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Margie. I'll open up my share tray and share my desktop. All right, so you can see we're at my calendar here, but I'm actually going to navigate to Teams, which is where you're going to see all of your classes. We'll go ahead and select Physical Science. I'm going to start a meeting here. So there are a couple of ways I can do this. The first is with this Meet Now button. All I need to do is click Meet Now. You can see my camera. Everything is ready to go. I can even make sure my background filter is on. And I'll click Join Now. This will start a meeting within our chat, within our channel, and it will prompt me to invite some folks. So I will cancel out of this. We'll navigate over to participants and we'll add Margie. They'll call Margie right on in. But for now, we'll leave this meeting. To join a meeting in your general channel, you just need to click that big join button. We can also schedule a meeting. So we'll click schedule a meeting. You can see here, it'll tell you where it's hosted. We can go back and actually change which physical science channel we want. So maybe we want all of our lessons on, say, physics or oceans or astronomy hosted in that particular channel. We can select that. We'll say this is second period science. We'll add required attendees, which again will be Margie. I can add optional attendees. I can say, I want this to repeat weekly. Will occur every Friday at 3:30. I can add a location here as well. This is great for your hybrid students. So students who come in the building may or may not remember which room that they are supposed to join the class in. This is a pretty common problem we have with our students. So all I need to do is add room 202. We'll say that's my classroom. If your room is set up as a Teams room with your IT folks, you can actually add that particular room in as long as it's saved in your demo, in your tenant. If it is not, feel free to just type that in. It will save anyway. But I'm going to go ahead and close this out since I am not going to use it. The other way to join a meeting is to navigate to your calendar. And we'll click here. To join, I just select, I click join, and again, it'll ask me to prep all of my audio and visual. We've got a couple of different options here. So I can show my participants. I can show the conversation. We had quite a lively conversation just before. You can see people were using our chat feature, which is a great way for students to take a moment to react, to think about what they were doing, to pose questions. I particularly love doing check-ins with GIFs. So it's Friday, I can say I'm excited. Add that to the chat as to how I'm feeling. We can also react. This includes raising your hand. And this will give a yellow highlight around the person's video or their photo or their initials, depending on how things are set up. I can also react, and this will show, here we go, we have Margie joining. So you can see I've got my hand raised down here. Margie, if you would react, that would be wonderful, so people can see that. Margie's got her hand raised. We can also like, and you can see it'll show up at the bottom here. We also have breakout rooms. So I've got 2 rooms going here. I can assign my participants, and I'll put Margie into room 1. Then to start rooms, we just start our room. It has to think quite hard for just a moment. As the teacher, we can jump back and forth again by navigating to this breakout rooms. I can join the room. And then I can leave the breakout room, close our rooms, and resume our meeting. We also have some options for our camera view. So we can have a large gallery that will do up to 7 by 7 video feeds. And then we have together mode. And that will cut out everybody's individual camera and it'll put us into a room together. So it looks like we're all sitting together. I also have the option to turn on closed captions. And what this will do is it will actually, let's turn this on. And what this will do is it will attribute who is speaking to which meeting and closed caption it in real time. The more you use this feature, the better it will get at figuring out your voice and your speech patterns. We can also start a recording. And what this will do is it will record your meeting. So that way, if you have students who missed or may need to review the content reviewed in class, they can review the video. This will save in your OneDrive and you can review it later, save it, you can upload it to a website of your choosing and share it out with students. So I'll leave this meeting so you can see what that looks like. So we'll navigate here. You can see it's still being recorded. So we'll detail in here. We'll click chat. And recording is being uploaded to OneDrive. So all I have to do is click this, get the link where I can open and I can view that again. Within this meeting, we also have meeting notes and Whiteboard. Whiteboard is a collaborative space where multiple people can join and brainstorm. We can use all kinds of different colors of pens. We can use different sticky notes. We can write, we can type. I'll join again and see if it will let me share it. So we just go to our share tray, open our Whiteboard. Here we go. This is great for when you're leading class discussions and you want students to be able to interact with each other. So we've got brainstorm, we've got some notes here. With our particular workplace, we actually use this to make collages for people's birthdays or for when they're the employee of the month. And you can save this, you can export it to different types of files, whether that's a PDF or a JPEG, and use it later. Or you can let it live in Whiteboard as you continue to work with it. You can also, in your channel meetings, I was giving it a minute to upload our attendance report. We can click on our attendance report and it will download it. To get to it, I just open my downloads and you can see that a few people show up, for how long, their email, and their role. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about your meeting options for classroom management. So again, when we detail in, we can click Meeting Options, and it will pull up this screen. So we can decide who can bypass the lobby. Everyone, that means anyone can start the meeting, and anyone can stay in the meeting. I can say people in my organization, trusted organizations, and guests. So let's say that you are having some guest speakers or some parents who aren't a part of your school community's tenant. They don't have that at your school email address. They can still join, but you can say they're not allowed to start the class without me letting them in. And they're not allowed to join the class without me letting them in. I can say only people in my organization and guests can join without me letting them in, or if we don't want anyone to start the meeting without us, and we want to be letting students in who need to be in, we can say only me. We can say let callers bypass the lobby. People can bypass the lobby when they call in. So you can call a number and that will admit you to the meeting. You always want to make sure that callers sit in the lobby so you can admit them later, because there isn't a way to see who they are quite yet. We do want to announce when callers join or leave. We can say only I can present. So that's that little shared tray where you can see the whiteboard, some slides, a web page, a particular document. If I want everyone to be able to share, maybe we're doing a show and tell type of day, or we're doing presentations, we'll want everyone. We can say only people in my organization and guests, or specific people. So maybe only 1 or 2 students are giving a presentation. We only want those 1 or 2 students to be able to present. Sometimes only I want to be presenting, only I want to be able to share my screen. If this is a lecture, especially with a guest, we might want to say nobody can unmute, but we'll allow attendees to unmute. We can allow our meeting chat. Enabled means that the chat will live on before and after the meeting itself. This can be great if you want students to be able to access and use the chat after class to continue to brainstorm and collaborate. We can say no chat at all, or we can say in meeting only. So the chat will only work within the meeting. And then those hand raises, those hearts and thumbs ups, we can turn those off, or we can turn those back on. And then we'll save that. Now close out of this window. Again, we can download our attendance report right here, just like we would for our channel meetings. We can show more of our meeting info. And that is how you master meetings.
Wow, Emma, that was amazing. You showed so many amazing features about the meeting experience. And I hope that our educators who are watching this today are really seeing the power of Microsoft Teams, not just the virtual meeting experience, but the things you do before, during, and after class with your students, and really seeing Microsoft Teams as a hub for your class to come together. And we also see lots of great questions in that chat. So keep the questions coming. We're going to keep hanging out and answering your questions. So if we didn't show the feature that you were hoping to see, or there's still something on your mind, drop it in the chat. Emma and I will keep answering questions. Again, thank you for joining us here at Bett, and we will see you around next time. Our emails are on this slide, so please write them down. Emma and I will be happy to help you out with any training support needs that you need. Please don't hesitate to reach out. And with that, have a great rest of your day.